guys, welcome to The Bite. My name is Jackie. Today we're starting off fall with a pumpkin recipe. This is pumpkin apple muffins with pecans, so pumpkin pecan apple muffins. I used to work at Bath & Body Works and their pumpkin apple candle was one of my favorite ones during the fall, and I decided to implement those scents or those flavors into a muffin, and I loved how it turned out. And I tested it a few different ways, and I finally got the texture right where I want it, but I tested it with grating the apples, cutting the apples. I even asked you guys on Instagram what you guys prefer. So if you're not following me, follow me, because I asked you your opinion a lot of times, and I take everything you guys say into consideration when I'm filming. But we'll get into that in just a second. First, let's go over the ingredients. All right, so we're gonna start with the pumpkin. You wanna make sure it's pumpkin puree and not pumpkin pie mix, because that has sugar and spices in it. I just want it plain. All the dry ingredients are in here. So flour and oats, pumpkin pie seasoning, baking powder, baking soda, salt, and pecans. You can leave them out or substitute them for a different nut of your choice. I have all my wet ingredients, so white and brown sugar, 2 eggs, vanilla extract, and vegetable oil. I have my apple grated, and I'll explain this in just a second. And here's a little makeshift buttermilk. So you just take regular milk and add in either vinegar or lemon juice, or in my case, apple cider vinegar, so I can amp up that apple flavor. And you're not gonna taste the muffin vinegary at all, because the baking soda and the baking powder kind of cancel that out. It just helps to add fluffiness and tenderness to the final product, and I love it how it turns out. So for the apples, I tested it by dicing it, I tested it by finely grating it, and I tested it by grating it the way I did for here. When I diced it, I felt like I lost a lot of the apple flavor. For some reason, I don't really care for chunks of apple in my muffins. You could do it that way, but I prefer it this way. And then another time, I used this grater, so I'm gonna show you if you wanna come up close, cameraman. So this was the first grater that I used, and you can see that it's really small. This is not quite a zester, but something that maybe you would use for like Parmesan cheese. Instead, I used a box grater because it gives me different textures, but the one that I wanted to use was like the big grater. So you can see that you'll be able to get a little bite of an apple, but it also allows you to get a little bit of juice in it, and it just worked a lot better that way. I really prefer it, but you can do it how you like. When you grate it too fine, it almost turns into like applesauce, and it changes the whole texture and flavor of the entire thing, and this is how I like to do it. Anyways, first thing I want to do is mix together my vinegar and the milk, allow that to sit for about 5 minutes. Just give that a quick mix real quick. I'm gonna let this sit, and then we're going to mix together our wet ingredients. So everything that's in here is perfect and ready to go. I'm just gonna give that a quick mix before I add in the pumpkin. Once that's mixed in, then you can add in your pumpkin. And then lastly, you'll add all the apples and the juices into the wet ingredients. For this recipe, I like to use a honeycrisp apple. That's just the apple that I prefer the taste of, but you can use whichever one you want, as long as it adds up to about a cup and a half worth of apples, once they're grated. This is pretty much ready, and you can see it's kind of thickened up a little bit and curdling, which is good. That's what we want. If you actually have buttermilk on hand, you can use about a little more than a half a cup, like close to 2/3 of a cup of buttermilk. I'm gonna add that into the wet ingredients. Now, before I add this into here, I wanna mix these up just quickly so that you're not getting clumps of any one ingredient. So now I'm just gonna add all the wet ingredients into the dry, and like I said, I normally do this the other way around, but this works just as well. You just want to make sure that every portion is mixed thoroughly so that you're not getting clumps of flour. I like to start with a whisk and then switch to a spatula once it's about halfway mixed. The batter is ready. I'm gonna go get my lined cupcake tins, but in the meantime, huge tip, if you're ever using a grater of any kind, once you're done with it, even if you don't wash it right away, at least rinse it so that none of the gunk stays in between the little holes, and it's way easier to clean if you just rinse it off right away, and then you can scrub it down later if you want. Quick tip. All right, so I found that this batter makes about 17 cup muffins. That is an odd number, but you know what? If somebody has an issue with 17, you could just take away a few for yourself or freeze them because they freeze really, really well. And just don't tell anybody. Just give them the dozen, you keep this side to yourself. I do it all the time. So my daughter's awake, I'm gonna fill these up and we'll be right back. So they baked for about 22 minutes. They're out of the oven and ready to eat. I did put a streusel on top, so I mixed some flour, some sugar, and some cold butter that I just cubed up. I mashed everything up with a fork, and then I topped each cupcake off with about a teaspoon's worth of the streusel. You can hear Nadia in the background, she just woke up from her nap. But I baked them at 375 for about 22 minutes or until a toothpick came out of the center cupcake, in the middle of the center cupcake clean. And they are, look at that, they are nice and soft, ready to eat. I'm so excited. I'm gonna take a quick bite because someone is a little anxious to watch Dora the Explorer. I'm gonna take this bite right here. Perfect. It's super moist and tender on the inside. The apple chunks are not huge. They're not like applesauce-y. It's just right in the middle, exactly where I like it. The top is kind of got a little bit of a crunch from the streusel, and it's a great contrast with the muffin itself. If you don't want the streusel to be super crunchy on top, you can do a little bit of white sugar and a little bit of brown sugar so that it's a little bit more tender and less crunchy. But this is just delicious. I hope you guys enjoy this and give it a try. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you're notified of when I post some videos. We got a lot of good stuff coming up this fall. And give this a try and send me your pictures when you make my recipes because I love to see them and I love to share them with my followers. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. I gotta go put Dora the Explorer on. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.